Happy Thursday. It is Thursday, March 4th, and it is time to check our bell work. You should already have this all done, and you should be just checking your answers with me. If you get it wrong, I do want you to fix it, please. So I ask you to solve and rate your answers as mixed numbers in simplest form when possible. So that means if it can be changed into a mixed number, do that. If it can be simplified, do that. And if it can't, don't do that. Okay, we've got a whole mix of things here. 5 6 times 18. Multiplication, I don't need a common denominator, but it is a lot easier to multiply when you see that you have a numerator and a denominator. So we usually put a 1 underneath our whole number. And then I want to see, can I cross simplify? Well, I can't with 5 and 1, but with 6 and 18, I can. 6 is the largest number that goes into both of those. And if you didn't choose 6, you can still end up with the same answer if you simplify it at the end, so don't change anything just yet. 6 goes into 6 once, 6 goes into 18 3 times. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 1 is 1, and 15 divided by 1 is 15. So you should have 15 for number 1. Number 2, 7/8 times 2 over 21. Can we cross simplify anywhere before we multiply? Because I don't want to do 8 times 21. Yes, you can. With 7 and 21, isn't 7 times 3 21? That means that 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. Now look at 2 and 8. 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 3 is 12, and 1/12 is your final answer. If you did multiply before cross simplifying, then you'll get 1/12. You'll just have to simplify a different answer at the end, okay? So whatever you got when you did that, you can break it down to 1/12. For number 3, I cannot cross simplify, and I'm not allowed to just cross off 3's that are directly across from one another, because simplifying means you're figuring out the number that goes into the numerator and the denominator, and those are both numerators and those are both denominators. So I'm just going to do 3 times 3 is 9, 5 times 5 is 25, and call it a day. That one's done. All right, number 4, I am multiplying some mixed numbers here. So let's change those to improper fractions, shall we? 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 halves. 10 times 1 is 10, plus 1 is 11 tenths. Now we're going to go ahead and see, can I cross simplify anything? Well, 2 and 11 I can't, but 5 and 10 I can. 5 goes into both of those. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 10 twice. So I can do 1 times 11 is 11, and 2 times 2 is 4. And I can make that a mixed number. 4 goes into 11 2 times, and 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 gives me that 11, and my denominator stays the same. So 2 3/4 is what you should have. Okay, now we're moving into our division problems. And remember that we can use inverses to help us solve our division problems. Any division problem you see, you can solve by multiplying by the reciprocal. So 1/9 divided by 3, that means you have 1/9 of something and you're sharing it between 3 people. I can change this to 1/9 times the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. 1 times 1 is 1, 9 times 3 is 27. So 1/27. Right, number 6, 3 divided by 1/9. You might be thinking, oh, that's a typo. You gave us the same problem. I didn't, because division is not commutative. The order does matter. So you're going to get a different answer here. 3 divided by 1/9. I can use inverses and write this as 3 times. The reciprocal of 1/9 is 9 over 1, or 9. So 3 times 9 is 27. Is there a difference between 1/27 and 27? You betcha. A pretty big difference. All right, number 7, 10 divided by 1/7. I want to know how many 1/7s there are in 10. Well, there are 7 1/7s in 1, so that would mean that there would be 10 times 7, which is 70. So we just kept this and multiplied by the reciprocal. 1/8 divided by 2. I'm going to keep my 1/8 and multiply by the reciprocal of 2. And remember, this 2 really means 2 over 1. The reciprocal of 2 over 1 is 1/2. So the answer to this would be 1/16. And number 9 makes me want a Slurpee. That's why I picked it. 7 divided by 11 is 7 divided by 11. It's 7/11. We get that by taking 7 times 1/11, which is the reciprocal of 11. Okay, a couple more comparison problems here. For number 4, I see 2/5, 3/9. That's not a common denominator, so let's go ahead and get one. I can't multiply 5 by anything to get 9, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by the opposite fractions denominator and this by the opposite fractions denominator. I end up getting 18 over 45 compared to 15 over 45. And last time I checked, 18 out of 45 was more than 15 out of 45. So 2/5 would be greater. All right, next one, 1 3/4 compared to 9/10. Now, what you think about this? Do I need to get a common denominator before I can compare these? I know that sometimes we're like, well, you could change that to improper and then get a common denominator. But look at this. Isn't 9/10 less than 1? And here I have 1 3/4. If this is less than 1 and this one has 1 and then a little bit extra, that one's greater. No work required. This has the whole number. This one is less than 1. You're good. 1 3/4 would be greater. For number 6, I have 2 1/3 versus 2 1/4. We can use our unit fraction size to help us. I know that both of these are 2 whole, but what's more, 1/3 or 1/4? Well, which pieces would be larger? Sharing between 3 people or sharing between 4 people? Sharing between 3 people. So 2 1/3 would be greater than 2 1/4. You could have gotten a common denominator. You could have multiplied 1/3 by 4/4 and 1/4 by 3/3, and you'd have 2 4/12 compared to 2 3/12, and you'd still get that one's greater, but we can use our number sense as well. All right, and number 7, 8/9 compared to 2/3. You could use the reasoning of 1/9 is a smaller piece than 1/3 because that's how far away from 1 this is, so that would be greater. Or if you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Mrs. Trombley, then you could multiply this fraction by 3/3 because 3 times 3 will give you that 9. And 2 times 3 is 6. So 6/9 is less than 8/9, so 8/9 would be greater. All right, you're all set with your bell work for today. Good luck with the rest of your stuff.